Hi, I'm Megha Sharma, and with me is the CEO and Editor-in-Chief of NewsX, Rishabh Gulati. And we are talking about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's forthcoming visit to Japan and to China. He will be in Japan on 29th, 30th, and 31st of August, and then he's going to be traveling for the SCO Summit that takes place on 31st and 31st of August and 1st of September. So I'm going to start off by asking the question to you, Rishabh, about the significance of this SCO summit that is taking place in China.
The SCO Summit has its own place in the global systems of how multilateral arrangements are working. Shanghai Cooperation Organization. It was primarily set up by the Chinese for creating a collective within the Central Asian states, of course, supported by the Russians, for whom the Central Asian republics they would like to still consider as their sphere of influence. We've been invited into that process. We've been attending the process. It's a long-standing process, but there's a big difference. The difference is this is not a delegation from India going. This is not even the External Affairs Minister of India going. This is not an appointee. This is the Prime Minister and the head of the executive going. So the fact that the Prime Minister is going for the SCO Summit is indicating to you that the SCO Summit, which, like I said, has its own multilateral space, but the meetings that are going to happen, the location in which these meetings are happening, which is of course in Beijing. PM Modi has not visited Beijing, to the best of my knowledge, in the last 6 or 7 years. So that is in itself significant. The circumstances under which this is taking place, with the tariffs and all globally, Ukraine, in Gaza, is a huge deal, and the indication of what realignment this suggests is a very big deal. So now you would recall, Megha, that India and China have had long-standing issues, not only in our economic framework, which is trade and other matters, about Chinese goods being sold in India, security in terms of the Chinese hardware, the chips and the 5G connections. But remember, Huawei is also being banned in India. TikTok was banned in India. But also the fact that we share a 2,500 kilometer border with the Chinese, we have long-standing territorial disagreements. And you recall very well what happened in Galwan 5 years ago, in which those border disagreements led to a clash in which those 50 Indians lost their lives. That had to be a low point in India-China relations. COVID was a low point in Chinese relationships across the globe because, like it or not, many people would consider that had the Chinese been a lot more open about it, had been a lot more vocal about it, maybe we could have responded faster. So within the COVID backdrop, Galwan takes place, long-standing territorial disputes. The whole world seems to be shifting towards creation of a Quad, which is led by the US, India, Japan, and Australia. Now, Quad says we're not designed for to target anyone, but let's be realistic. Okay, it is meant to create an Indo-Pacific framework, which is to counterbalance the Chinese. So the ecosystem that was being built was heading in this direction. China plus one, okay, different chains of manufacturing, supply chain conversations, all of them which were triggered during COVID, then for us became highly substantiated during immediately after Galwan, were all taking us in one direction. There seems to be a pivot in direction, and this is perhaps one of the most significant conferences in Beijing in the history of this decade, if I don't say the history of this century, that is about to take place because a fundamental pivot is happening.
Right, absolutely. You spoke about the US tariffs. Now, the tariff deadline that the US administration has imposed on India is now over. What is the importance and the significance of the SCO in wake of the Trump tariffs that have been imposed all across the globe?
The tariffs are a shock for the Europeans. They are a shock for the Japanese. They're a shock for the Aussies. They're a shock for the Canadians, the Mexicans, you name it. Everybody is currently wondering that a global system which was dependent upon free trade, open markets, has been very brutally assaulted. A system that was created, the WTO is a mechanism The Bretton Woods concepts are all mechanisms, IMF, World Bank, WTO, these are all mechanisms which are created by the United States of America. The Trump administration seems to be telling us that, hang all that, okay, we want to take on the entire world at once. And then we want to give pretexts to taking on the entire world. So up until now, okay, and this is very fundamental for Americans to understand, India is, we are not a death to America country, okay? We look at America and we want to be like that, okay? There are a lot of Indians who go and migrate to America and have done very well. You can name the top tech firms. You go to, Palo Alto, San Francisco, there's not a single major startup which has gone unicorn, which doesn't have an Indian in the C-suite. So we are believers in the American dream. We want to create that. We are a democratic country that wants to be as successful, as important, and economically move ourselves forward. We've made significant strides in the past couple of decades. India is the fourth largest economy in the world right now. Within a year, we'll overtake Germany to become third largest. So that's the United States, there's China, and there's India. Now, in terms of scales of economies, not in PPP, but dollar terms, America is the largest economy in the world. For most countries, it is also their single largest bilateral trade partner, India included. We have about $150 billion in a good year trade with the United States of America. $150 billion is a chunk of change for anyone. But in the larger context, you have to understand, and both on the strategic sphere, this makes no sense to me. The damage this has done is significant because two things have happened simultaneously, Megha. You have dropped tariffs on India, fine, 25%. You've dropped tariffs on everywhere in the world. Okay, with the Europeans, where you claim to have done a deal, with the Japanese, where you claim to have done a deal, not really. It's still in flux. Nobody actually knows what's going on. Then you said, we are going to punish India. We're going to punish you that you have a dead economy and we're going to make you pay for it. And we're going to do 25 plus another 25, 50% tariffs. We're going to punish you and levy this on you. The initial pretext was it's reciprocal, that you guys charge tariffs, we are going to charge tariffs. There is a conversation which can happen around that. That is where you can do deal making, fair enough. But the secondary one is, quote unquote, a punishment for having an association with Russia and buying Russian oil, when it is patently clear that the Chinese are buying Russian oil. They aren't getting a punishment tariff. And the reason the Chinese aren't getting a punishment tariff is because the Chinese are saying, listen, we hold these supply chains. Okay, we have got you in a vice. We hold the supply chain when it comes to rare earth. We have a supply chain when it comes to electronic manufacturing. Can Apple make an iPhone in America? The answer is probably not at this point of time. So then you're going, oh, but less tariffs for you. So this concept that this is a punishment, you're taking a country that you say you want to be friends with, strategic partners with. We say we want to be friends with, strategic partners with, and you're saying you're punishing us for buying oil to stabilize our economy over a war that we didn't start, we didn't create, we aren't fighting on either end. We have repeatedly taken the stand that we want this war to end. It has to end on acceptable terms for all parties, that this is not an era of war. I mean, every podium that our Prime Minister's got, that's where he's defeated. So when you use the word punishment, okay, punishment for what? Should we be punishing the Europeans the same way, who buy all the LNG that comes out of Russia? Are you going to punish every country that does business with any other country because you have a problem with that country? Then it's an in principle matter. It's no longer an economic conversation. The economic conversation ended when the issue was about reciprocity. Your tariffs versus my tariffs. It is fair enough for an American administration to negotiate a better deal for itself. It's fair enough for us to protect our industries. Somewhere you meet a balance, and where there are disputes, a WTO mechanism led by the Americans is here to address that. Imperfect, I accept that, but the mechanism exists and it is led by the Americans. But as soon as you're saying, we will tell you who you can do business with and who you cannot do business with, who you can buy from and who can't buy from, and let's face it, then we are being told that, hey, okay, you are the same to us as anybody else. and we think we can punish you and we can call your economy a dead economy. Well, we've dealt with those threats, and unfortunately, what happens is, Megha, that the full smorgasbord of an unhappy history with the American administration in the past comes on forth. That's already happened. From the top of government through the people in this country to people like us who have been, let's face it, doing everything possible to open conversations, better understanding between India and the US. Because I've written articles, done hundreds of hours of television. You have, where that the future of the world has to be set by a new Indo-Pacific charter to replace the Atlantic Charter, and that has to be an Indian Prime Minister and American President who come and meet and set the course of humanity. And we are flying in the face of that. So when it comes to the tariff deadline, what's the position? Is there a conversation going on? To my knowledge, there is. Okay. We have an in-principle stand, and the Americans have taken a very aggressive stand. Privately also, behind the scenes, there is no progress happening because the terms and conditions are as such that we will tell you whom you can do business with and you can't. And if you don't follow our lines, we will punish you. And forget, on the economic front, we are going to do something which no American president, not even Nixon, who was sending the 7th Fleet to threaten India in 1971, to support a military dictatorship in Pakistan run by Yahya Khan. Not even Yahya Khan was having lunch in the White House with the US president, but Munir was. So let me put this into context. If we are sitting in a lovely park in Yellowstone, or a nice area in America, in the Rockies, we are sitting in a lovely valley, in a lovely park. There's husband and wife, children running around, and they're having a picnic and they're eating some snacks. And two guys come with AK-47s and they say, "You, what is your name?" And you say, "My name is this." "What is your religion?" And you say, "I'm a Hindu." Or you lie. Then they say, "Okay, quote from the Quran." And if they're still not convinced, they strip you naked to check if you're circumcised or not as an evidence of your religion, then shoot you on the basis of your religion. And then when your wife asks, "You've already killed my husband, why have you not shot me? You may as well kill me too," you go say, "Go and tell Donald Trump." How would you respond? I would think the response would be, "We are going to smoke you out, and everybody else, you're either with us or against us." That's what the response should be. But the perpetrator, the mastermind, everybody knows where Osama bin Laden was. Everybody knows where Muhammad Atta visited before the 9/11 strikes. Everybody knows these things. Okay, Five Eyes intelligence knows them better than you and I. Okay, but then you say, "No, actually, I need the Pakistanis to backstab the Iranians, so I have to do some other computation. So let me cancel the meeting in Canada at the G7 with the Indians, and let me have lunch, a red carpet lunch at the White House for a Pakistani de facto dictator who has just done this in India." It is indigestible. So now the matter of principle has come in. Okay, it's no longer a matter of pure economics, because on economics, yes, you can do a to and fro, but on matter of principle, you are telling us who we can talk to, not talk to, agree with, disagree with, do business with, don't do business with. How?
Yeah.
You are sitting and having lunch with a person who perpetrates terror, is known to perpetrate terror. Okay, you're striking crypto deals with that person. You're talking about oil in Pakistan, gold in Pakistan. People sitting here in South Asia have heard these stories before. There is no oil in Pakistan. There are no gold deposits in Pakistan. There's nothing to be found. It's a wild goose chase to justify the fact that the world's epicenter of terror has a 19% tariff and the world's largest democracy has a 50% tariff.
Right. That's interesting analysis that you have made. But I would like to understand from you, how does India position itself in the SCO? We know Pakistan is also a member state at the SCO. There was the defense minister's meeting of the SCO that had happened just a few months ago. Rajnath Singh over there refused to sign the joint statement simply because India had concerns that the joint statement does not reflect India's concerns for terrorism. And there was, it says, quote unquote, by the Ministry of External Affairs, saying that one particular country was not okay with the language that was used with regards to India's concerns on terrorism. Now, how does India figure out its economic advantages that it is likely to gain against Trump's tariffs?
Okay.
Versus its deals and its policies vis-a-vis China, Russia, and Pakistan?
Okay, so let's eliminate the Pakistan question first, since I've already mentioned it. Okay, Pakistan economically on the face of the world is not a matter of significance. For the Pakistanis, it's a do and die question. The $2 billion that the Americans helped them get from the IMF, while the aftermath of these terror attacks was still playing out, right in the middle of it, in fact, that $2 billion is a lifeline for them. They're that desperately short of cash. Their entire foreign exchange reserves are $8-9 billion. Put into context, India's foreign exchange reserves are $700 billion. Okay, so the scales of the economies are nowhere near. So in the larger economic framework, Pakistan doesn't matter. But on a security framework, Pakistan has things stand, the epicenter of radical terrorism. A large part of that, a significant part of that, but not the entire part. Attacks that happen in New Zealand have Pakistan links. That happen in Times Square have Pakistani links. If they are happening in Germany, they are Pakistani links. But a percentage of their energy and resources is spent on targeting Indian civilians. So it is a security question for us. We have to look after our own people. We're not expecting the Americans to do it for us. We're not expecting the Chinese to do it for us. We're not expecting the Russians to do it for us. So the Pakistan question is not an economic question per se, but it is a security question. Now, up until 6-8 months ago, Pakistan's all-weather best friend for life was the Chinese. And that was the issue. That the Chinese are going to be supplying them all their jets and the ammunition and all the equipment that is used against India is either of American origin or Chinese origin. That's where they get it from. So the China question is a lot different now, because right now, Munir is best friends with Donald Trump. That's the impression we've been given, that he has the ear of the president. As far as the US administration of Donald Trump is concerned, India and Pakistan are rehyphenated. We are the same. In fact, we are the ones being punished, and the Pakistanis the ones being rewarded. Rewarded for what? I can guess it's some backstabbing that happened in Iran. All the intelligence of where the Iranian leaders were, who knows? I don't know. But in real terms, do we have existential issues with the Chinese? The answer is yes, we do. We have existential issues on our sovereign territory with the Chinese. We have serious concerns, I'm sure, over Arunachal, over Sikkim, over Aksai Chin, over Tibet, even though our stated policy is we recognize the one China policy. But let's face it, the Dalai Lama and the Tibetans live here and have been for the past 50 years. So China is a second question, but where do things stand? Things stand that while we have problems with the Chinese, okay, and like I said, there are serious problems, strategic problems, immediate problems, military problems. What the Donald Trump administration has just done is tell us that we are not your partners, we are not your friends. You either do as we say, or we hang you out to dry, we come and punish you. So what are the options that we've got? The options are, and the Chinese seem to agree, that we have to now work out alternative arrangements. Now, if the US-India trade is $150 billion, the India-China trade is roughly the same. It's about $140 billion. The US-India trade is to our advantage. We profit from it. There's a current account surplus to it. Okay, accept it that it should be nearer balance. The India-China trade is a current account deficit for us. We lose money on it. But if the correctives are to be done, well, the choice seems to be that the rest of the world has to now come together, and that's everyone else have to come together to now figure out alternative options, because either you get dictated to do as you say come to some sort of ad hoc random agreement, which what the Japanese and the Europeans seem to have done, which one side says one thing, the other side says completely the opposite. Okay, sell your soul, or or heal, and be told where to sit and what to do, or think that you have to now figure it out yourself. So the Americans are not with you. So be it. Then we have to come up with alternative options, and that is what is happening right now. And this seems to be, like I said, very pivotal, because if all we were discussing for the past 5 years was China plus one, Quad, the promotion of the India-US relationship, well, I'm not saying that's all gone, but in the present very unhappy, hostile almost circumstances, where I don't know how you can back away from the principle of things now. It's not just the tariffs, Megha, that what has happened with Pakistan is indigestible for all Indians. Economic arguments you can still have, but that's indigestible for all of us.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Rishabh, for sharing that detailed analysis, and we'll keep you posted as there are going to be developments. So it's a high stake investment for all these countries, particularly India, Russia, and China. And stay tuned on NewsX for the latest updates.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.